My fellow Singaporeans, good afternoon. I am your Prime Minister, Lee Ah Loong. In almost every general election since independence, the PAP has held a rally near Fullerton. We usually hold it after the midpoint of the campaign. Why? Maybe it's because Fullerton used to be a post office, so that after this election, you can send us home. Why do we always hold a midpoint rally? It is an occasion to pause, look at how the opposition is doing, and look at how we can use scare tactics to shock Singaporeans so that they will not vote for the opposition, so that we can shock Singaporeans back into voting for us, and so that we can refocus everyone's minds to vote for us. Last week, I accused the WP of using reverse psychology. But actually, I use reverse psychology to control the minds of Singaporeans, to make them vote for me. So, I use reverse psychology better than the Workers' Party. Hardly ever in Singapore's history have the stakes been higher than today. We are in the middle of a crisis. But I still dare to call for an election in the middle of it. Why? Globally, the number of COVID-19 cases continue to surge. In Singapore, it has gotten worse as well in the last 2 weeks. Because I salvo ourselves by calling this election. We do not know how the pandemic will end or whether a lasting solution will be found. What we do know is that we, the PAP, do not have a solution. We told you, no need to wear mask. We were wrong. We told you, no need to close schools. We were wrong. We told you, no need to lock down. We were wrong. We told you, no need to get migrant workers at the dormitories to go to testing. We were wrong. We were wrong on so many counts. And we told you, migrant workers do not need to be tested. And when the infections at the migrant worker dormitories exploded because of a very bad decision, and when you blame us for it, we will POFMA you. All our experience since the beginning of this year has made clear just how important a good government is to fight COVID-19. And clearly, we have failed until sibei cham, sibei xia sui. We do not have a good government. Because instead of fixing COVID-19, we were fixing the opposition. So, POFMA here, POFMA there, POFMA everywhere. So, this is what the election is about. Whom do you trust to get you through these very difficult times ahead? So, if you trust our decisions to tell you not to wear masks, if you trust our decisions not to close schools earlier, and not go on a circuit breaker earlier, and if you trust our decisions to open up quickly so that we can hold the elections and put you at risk, then please vote for us. During this COVID-19, Singapore did not have enough beds. Comparing with other Asian countries, we have very few critical beds per million population. So we gabra. We rush here, rush there. We do not know what to do. Our infection rates per million has grown to one of the highest in the world right now. Sometimes, when patients with COVID-19 dies because of heart attacks, we also don't report it as a COVID-19 death. We have managed to get to this stage not by chance, but because we up. First, we have been preparing for a pandemic since SARS, but we can't still even cope with COVID-19 properly. For 17 years, we had time to be prepared. And when the time came, we got lost. Why? Because we took our eyes off the ball. We wanted to keep the economy open, so much so that we were willing to put your lives at risk. But every disease is different. COVID-19 is not the same as SARS. We thought it was the flu. And then we thought maybe it was not the flu. And then we thought maybe it was somewhere in between. And now we still do not know. But we still want to hold the election. So we pray that COVID-19 will not get worse until the election is over. And if it wants to explode by then, okay. But please, first, give us your mandate now. One challenge we had was to secure more face masks amidst a worldwide shortage. But what is our plan? What is our plan to produce more face masks? Chan Chun Sing never say. So I also do not know. But Chan Chun Sing dare to ask opposition to come up with a plan. This is what we call at the PAP very thick skin. Huh? Well, the only one with a plan is Heng Swee Keat. But his plan is only for East Coast. We care. By the way, were you at East Coast Parkway? Or were you at Changi Airport's Jewel? This is our East Coast plan. Our COVID-19 East Coast expansion plan. The new COVID-19 cases visited these places a few days ago. When other countries put doctors and medical professionals in charge of the pandemic response, we put an engineer, Gan Kim Yong, and an economist, Lawrence Wong, in charge of the task force. So now, our COVID-19 management is so bad that we have finally crossed 45,000 people. Majula, PAP. So come, let's clap for Singapore. Majula, PAP. Crucial decisions had to be made. It was the ministers who made these decisions and are accountable for them. So, if you want to hold someone accountable, please hold me and hold our PAP ministers accountable. You can do so by voting for more opposition politicians in to hold us accountable. Instead of letting PAP use the police to investigate Raeesah, vote Raeesah into Parliament to check on the PAP. One major decision was whether to impose a circuit breaker. Another big decision we made was open up quickly so that we can hold the election. It was a big decision. Kim Yong and Lawrence brought the matter to the cabinet. The cabinet discussed. It weighed the pros and cons and decided to go ahead. As it turned out, we acted in bad faith. The COVID-19 numbers were initially going down, but because we decided to hold the election, they have now shot up. After I called for the election on 23rd July, the number of COVID-19 cases increased to the highest in a month, from 1 case to 23 cases. Many Singaporeans told us not to open up too quickly. Many Singaporeans also told us not to hold the election until the pandemic subsides. But we didn't listen. It should be our responsibility. But we are very good at pushing it back to you. So please remember, wear mask or we will fine you. Keep a social distance even if you cannot on the MRT trains, or we will fine you. Unless you are a PAP candidate or one of our supporters removing opposition flyers from other people's doors. Now, it was a political decision, not an administrative one, to hold the elections, even though the pandemic hasn't subsided. The ministers and ultimately the PM and cabinet have responsibility. Because we did not have a team of capable ministers, we could not implement the anti-COVID-19 measures effectively. Because our PAP political leaders failed to act competently, voters lose trust in us. They are confused and dismayed. Their faith in the whole system is shaken. People suffer greatly. We, the PAP, have thus lost the confidence of Singaporeans. But we know you will still vote for us. At this moment of danger and alarm, the PAP is still keeping to our old ways. We are still trying to evoke the ghosts of the old PAP to convince you to vote for us. We show no recognition that we are facing a crisis of a generation. What will happen to Singapore if you let us form the government again? But it's okay. As long as we blame the opposition for everything, you will believe us, right? Because we know you will still vote for us. So if the opposition says that we did not test the migrant workers at the dormitories, and we told employers not to send these workers here, and even though it was reported in the news, we will POFMA the opposition. Of course, you know what the truth is. I know what the truth is. But as long as I use the POFMA law, you will believe me, right? Right? Of course, Raeesah, she pointed out the discrimination in Singapore. Of course, our policies have resulted in ethnic minority discriminations in Singapore. But if the police investigate Raeesah, all of you will be scared, right? Right. And we can continue to perpetuate our discrimination. Right. Right. Our second major challenge is the economy. The Jobs Support Scheme is a major initiative. All the money we took from you to put into the reserves, we are willing to finally return it to you after so many years. But just for now, after COVID-19, you can be rest assured we will find ways to take it all back. The more fundamental solution is jobs, jobs, jobs. This is our campaign tagline. It doesn't matter that many of you have lost your jobs and you need unemployment support. We do not plan to do that. If you become unemployed, it is your passe. Of course, we have a 3 months unemployment support scheme. It's only for 3 months. And you better lose your job for 3 months. And then you can come and beg for us. But after 3 months, your own passe. Short term only. We don't intend to do anything long term for you. Just to win the election. The opposition, of course, has plans to help you. But we won't tell you that. We will just tell you they copy our plans when we have no plans. The Workers' Party wants to provide workers who lose their jobs with retrenchment insurance of 40% of their last drawn salary for 6 months. The Singapore Democratic Party wants to provide retrenchment insurance of 75% of the workers' last drawn salary for at least 6 months, which can be extended if necessary. At the PAP, we only want to give you something temporary. The opposition wants to implement a more long-term and far-sighted policy. But we know, you will still vote for us. We just need to POFMA the opposition. Way back in 1985, and this is in my speech, we were in a similar situation. So this is the part where I spend 5 paragraphs telling you how good the PAP of the past is, how good my father is, how the old PAP was so good, they were so capable. We 4G leaders are not capable. So as long as I talk about how good they were, you will believe we are good too. They could take decisive actions. We cannot. We had to take 2 months before we tell you to put on masks, before we lock down. So I have to keep talking about my father. My father, he is my father. Who am I? I am his son. Without my father, I am nobody. But you know what else the PAP did? In 1981, we set up the GIC so that your money is now put into the reserves in the GIC. In 1984, the PAP set up the MediSave so that your money is now put into the reserves. In 1987, the PAP set up the CPF minimum sum, or what is now known as the full retirement sum, so that your money is put into the reserves. And in 1990, the PAP set up the MediShield, so that your money is now put into the reserves. Now, the world is watching this election closely. We will show the world that Singaporeans are still so easily controlled by the PAP, where no matter how poorly the PAP ministers perform, that Singaporeans will still reveal themselves to be scared and voting for the PAP without holding the PAP accountable. That is why in this election, the PAP seeks not just your mandate, but your strong mandate to let us continue mismanaging COVID-19 and put you and your families at risk. Meanwhile, what does the opposition have to say? They talk about a minimum wage to protect workers at the lower income. Very good. We don't want to do that, because then, how do we protect our own high ministerial salaries? So I ask you, and I said this in my speech, do you really want to vote for parties who in a crisis come up with nothing better than old recycled manifestos. Like us. Now, I have worked hard to field the strongest possible PAP team for this election. And this team, a third of our candidates are new candidates. No track record, no experience. But you will still vote for them. And you also have people like Lawrence Wong, Gan Kim Yong, Chan Chun Sing, Ong Ye Kung, and Josephine Teo, who are very experienced at failing miserably at handling the COVID-19 pandemic. My duty as PM is not just to take good care of Singaporeans and fix the opposition. It is also to prepare new generations of leaders who can take over from me. But as you can see, now that we do not have the 1G, 2G, 3G leaders, our 4G, 5G leaders, even trying to prepare new generations of leaders. This, I also cannot do. Xia sui. My PAP MPs and ministers, I think, have done their best. You have seen our track record. If you think that we have delivered and make your life better, please vote for us. If you think we have not, then by all means, vote us out. No, I mean seriously. If you are not impressed with our track records with COVID-19, if you think the cost of living in Singapore is too high, if you think you are not willing to reduce, we are not willing to reduce housing prices and healthcare costs for you, if you think we have made your life harder and made our lives better, PAP lives better, then by all means vote us out if you think we have not improved. But do not confuse signals by voting PAP. If what you really want is an opposition politician to speak up for you in Parliament. At the PAP, we tell you not to vote opposition when they want to offer you insurance against us. But we say, don't buy insurance from someone on a promise, especially when you have to suspect this company cannot pay out on the insurance, and their checks will bounce. At the PAP, we have made many promises to you. Have our checks bounced before? Have our checks bounced many times before? That's why we at the PAP says, don't buy insurance from someone on a promise when the check will bounce. With the PAP, you know that when we promise to give you something, we make sure that we will take double back the amount from you. We have controlled Singapore for 6 decades. We first became the government in 1959. After more than 60 years, this has not changed. We still want to make you pay and pay so that we can take and take. So now you know why we have to fix the opposition. And now you know why we keep telling you Singapore will collapse. Collapse! Of course Singapore won't collapse. You think when Singapore can run, it's because of PAP? Look at COVID-19. We cannot even manage COVID-19 well. What is running is the machinery behind us. You take us out, maybe the COVID-19 will be managed even better. Suddenly got light bulb, I cannot say that such a state of affair will last forever, because will PAP keep taking your money? Yes. Yes. Now, do not undermine a system that has served us at the PAP well. Look at countries that change governments regularly. After a government changes, the new government is kept on its toes to perform better for the citizens. Political parties learn eventually to collaborate with one another. And new and better policies are developed to protect citizens. These countries have done better than Singapore. Do you know that according to Vivian Balakrishnan, 60% of workers in Singapore are PMETs, one of the highest proportion of PMET workers in the world. But do you know that even though Singapore has so many PMETs, your wages by right should be the highest in the world, one of the highest? But do you know among the advanced economies with a similar GDP per capita and a similar cost of living as Singapore, Singapore actually has the lowest median wage for middle income workers among these countries. That means middle income Singaporeans, your lives are not that good as well because of the PAP. So I ask Singaporeans, do not be taken in by those who say that it is important for you to have more choices. Look carefully at the choices they offer you. Ask yourself if they can deliver. You have already voted PAP for the last 60 years. And this COVID-19, we at the PAP have taken you for a ride. Your future is at stake. Make your vote count. Now this is my 7th Fullerton rally. My first Fullerton rally was when I was in 1984. Blah, 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 blah. So this is the part where I spend one whole page talking about myself, my father again, how Singapore is such a scary place, Singapore will collapse, how PAP, the old PAP is so good, how there are so many scary things we have to be scared. My father, my father, my father, I am his son. Without me, without my father, I am nobody. So vote for me because of my father. Some people have daddy issues, huh? So, what I did not expect, what no one expected, was to meet this overwhelming crisis in the last stretch of my premiership. Ayo, damn suay. I know it has been really unfortunate that you had chosen me and my fellow ministers to lead Singapore through the critical crisis. COVID-19 is more complex and more dangerous than any previous crisis we have met. It took us by surprise. And we simply couldn't marshal our energies and resources to fight it properly. We scared you so much that we became scared ourselves. And we do not dare to take risks. Our response in this crisis will determine the future of our country and prospects in our children and grandchildren in Singapore, yours. And how have we managed the COVID-19 pandemic shows how strong the PAP politicians are. Do you think we can make it? Like seriously, do you think we can make it, 4G politicians at the PAP? Now, you have my word. If you vote me to see this through, I will put exactly the same 4G team and ministers in charge to handle the COVID-19. And you have already seen our track record. Kosong is also a track record, okay? Now, I have spent all my adult life being groomed to be the Prime Minister as part of a natural aristocracy. King. Because I am my father's son. That is why I took a scholarship to serve the SAF and then got promoted very quickly and then rise up into politics very quickly and became Prime Minister very quickly. My father. Now, to get through this crisis, I need your help. I cannot do it alone. I need the strongest team we can find to work with me and with you. I also need full support from all of you. This is why you need to vote in more opposition politicians who can hold me, the PAP, and my party accountable, and ask me the right questions. This is why you need to make sure the PAP does not become complacent again and keep repeating its mistakes and put you and your family at risk over and over again. Only in this way can we build the strongest team for Singapore. Now, if we all work together and build well, generation after generation, then we can build a fairer and more equal society where the PAP will not persecute ethnic minorities for speaking out on the discrimination they face, and the PAP will not use POFMA against people who speak the truth about COVID-19, about education and labour data. At this critical moment, Singapore needs a capable government with the full support of a united people more than ever from all the various parties and the very capable people that have been put up in some of the opposition parties. So have no fear. Instead, be confident. Make your vote count. Thank you. Hey, how was my speech, huh? Not bad, right? Like, I very sincere, right? Of course lah, you know Singaporeans, they will believe in anything. I tell them Singapore will collapse, wow, scared later all vote PAP again. That's why we have to do all this lunchtime rally at the middle, so that people halfway through very excited for opposition, suddenly scared, everything 縮起来, then they will vote for us. Smart, right? Yeah lah, I have to evoke my father, ma. If I just evoke myself, you think they will vote for me? I evoke my father, I tell you, 60 years down the road, they will still vote for me. Singaporeans like that one, very 超况 one. Huh? What? The video is still on? What? The video? Wait, what? Ayo! Hello? I love Singapore. I am compassionate about Singapore. Make Singapore great again. Vote for me.